This is Zachary Treitz and Christian Hansen, and together they researched and directed one of the most interesting Netflix documentaries I have ever seen, American Conspiracy, The Octopus Murders. This is a 4-part series that goes through the life and suspicious death of researcher Danny Casolaro. And we go through everything from the in-slaw promise software conspiracy and how foreign governments, or maybe our own government, was using it to spy on other governments from around the world. It has spycraft, espionage, murder, assassinations. We touch on JFK, we touch on the Iran-Contra affair, and how governments sometimes have to take out people that speak against them. Zach and Christian are the best. They've been longtime friends, and so this episode has a very casual, fun energy where we just sit around and chop it up about some of my favorite conspiracy theories ever. And they have all the research and data to really back up why these things are even more credible than they may seem on the surface. So, I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed having it. So sit back, relax, and welcome to camp. Zach and Christian, how are we?
Great. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Can I just get something out of the way?
Please. I was hoping you would.
Me and Zach are about the same height. He's sitting on a cushion, so he looks taller. So in case anybody was like...
Get another lie from Christian.
The conspiracy goes deeper. You know what I mean? It's like, how can we trust this guy's research?
You want me to slouch?
No, I just want to like set the table.
I was curious, actually, before we even really begin. Do you guys always match when you do these kinds of things?
Yeah.
Or is this...
We get up every morning. We sleep in the same bed. So I look over to him and I say, look, I'm thinking blue t-shirt.
Oh my gosh, and we're...
Yeah, same pants.
Oh my God.
Bummer.
Similar watch?
I haven't...
Black band with, with a gold bezel?
This is a Timex.
This is a vintage.
Something light just to flex on the people at home.
But it is weird. Like, we do end up showing up wearing like almost the same.
The real problem is that people say on the phone that we sound the same.
Interesting.
So, or podcasts, such as this environment. If you're not looking at us, because we're both from Louisville, we grew up together, and it becomes a kind of thing where people are like, who just said that? You know?
Yeah.
And like when we'll call sources together and we'll be on speakerphone and it's like
just one person dialed in.
Or a lot of times people being like, Christian, that sounds great. And it's like, that was me.
Even some sources have my number saved as Zach and your number saved as Christian.
You grew up in Louisville with our mutual friend Renan Hirschberg.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to high school with Renan.
Yeah.
He's like a year older than me, I think.
Yeah.
Brilliant comedian.
He was funny.
Hilarious in high school.
Now, you said when we were on text that you were schwitzing. Are you Jewish as well?
No, but that it just sounds weird to say.
Did you get that from Renan?
Outside.
Is that where you got that from?
Yeah.
I think.
He's been in New York too long, dude. That's what happens. You grow up in New York, you just start schlepping everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just happens. Now, if people don't know, you guys are the proprietors of a wonderful documentary series that came out on Netflix about a year ago. American Conspiracy, The Octopus Murders, which is fascinating and kind of ties in every sort of element of like, I think what people really enjoy about conspiracies, you know what I mean? Like uncovering the truth, sort of like a silenced hero that was on his way to breaking this whole case open and sort of the mystery around his murder, which is fascinating. I would love to talk about like updates as that goes. Zach, you directed it, and Christian, you were sort of the lead investigator that kind of was really tying together the web of all the details of the story. I'm curious, how do you even get involved in this type of a project? Where does it start?
I mean, it's like, I've told this, we try to make the film as efficient as possible. So we talk a lot about how I'm Zach's crazy friend and I got obsessed with this story, but we don't say how. So like every podcast, everyone's like, so how did you get into it? Like, wish we would have put it in the movie, because then, but I know why we didn't, because it's so random. It's like, I was researching the private prison industry, and this company, Wackenhut, was the second biggest private prison company. It had, by the time I started looking into it, it had changed its name to Geo Group. But I was just sort of like 2 a.m., like doing research for this paper, like college paper, like why is this company called Wackenhut? That's such a weird name. What the fuck is Wackenhut? And then just kind of started like looking into this company, and like it had this, I mean, whatever it was doing in the private prison space, like came way later. It was founded I think in the 50s by this ex-FBI guy. And it's also unclear whether he was an actual agent or if he was the
like the PE guy,
the
right?
PE guy, the physical education, keeping the agents in shape.
Interesting.
It's like, either way,
George
Wackenhut. He moves down to South Florida, and with a couple of other guys, they found this private security company, and they had really good connections in like the local Republican conservative government, and they were getting like state contracts, and eventually they there was some like all this like anti-communist stuff they were doing, like getting files on communists and kind of illegal research that the government couldn't do, like they could do, like shady.
I think at one point
stuff.
They had the largest collection of files on private citizens.
Interesting.
In America.
And this was like 60s, 70s time?
Yeah.
Got it.
And, and then eventually they have, huge national contracts. They've got offices all over the globe. They guard NASA facilities. They guard the like Area 51, area in Nevada. And
did they do Los Alamos too? I forget.
I can't remember, but they have like those kind of like big contracts like that. And then they also, the board of directors is all of these like department heads from the NSA, the Air Force, the CIA, and it's sort of like bigwigs at these agencies kind of roll out into the private sector, being on the board of the directors and
presumably filtering contracts from their old agency. And then like
right.
The allegation would be like whatever the CIA or whatever agency can't do or won't do.
Gray area work.
You can't FOIA a private security company. Like their files are private forever. And so they would do stuff that you couldn't that the CIA maybe wouldn't want to be attached to. So they were kind of like a cover for those type of things. Then, I'm just still like digging into this company, and I find like an article in Spy Magazine about this journalist who was looking into Wackenhut, among other things, like, and all these things I knew nothing about. I didn't know anything about the Iran-Contra affair. I mean, barely anything. And then this thing called the October Surprise, and then this, spy software called Promise, and this company called Inslaw that developed it, and their problems with the government. And I thought that it was like a fan fiction Iran-Contra thing because it was all just so insane. But the article was really well researched, and it names names, and everything checked out. Everybody that they were talking about was real. And like apparently this journalist named Danny Casolaro, who had died looking into all this stuff, like was real. And
your crazy ass was like, I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, no, I was like, this guy, like, and then the more I kind of learned about the guy, like, I was like, this guy's pretty cool. And the story that he was writing seems exciting and interesting. And like, it just sort of like literally died on the vine, like when he died. And it's like, I don't know. I was like, I should write a book. I should write the book that he never wrote, and I should write a book about him. And so I just kind of started.
And you were doing this full well knowing that he had died under some mysterious circumstances.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's like, the start of every kind of magazine article about him is about his mysterious death. You start with the death scene, and then you backtrack to like how he got to that hotel room.
Fascinating. So you kind of go on the same sort of journey that Danny went on, and then you get to his part and you're like, oh shit, he's found dead in a hotel room, wrists cut deep to the tendons on both arms in a bathtub alone.
Yeah.
And that is sort of like the precipitating factor that then leads to people digging into his story, but then also trying to dig into his research as well.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So I guess just for context for the audience that doesn't know, could you explain Iran-Contra and kind of how that ties in with like Promise and what Danny was ultimately trying to uncover? I know this is obviously...
In 30 words or less.
Yeah, 30 words or less. I know this is obviously the main bulk of this 4-part documentary series that's on Netflix. But, just for the audience to kind of be abreast as we go forward in the conversation.
Okay. After a July 4th weekend, let's see here if I can like get my brain in order. So, I mean, Iran-Contra is like actually pretty difficult to explain because there's something called a limited hangout, which is where you cop to less than what was really going on, but the less seems so egregious, like it's this big admission. But by copping to the less bad thing that's also bad, you kind of are able to obfuscate or cover up all this other shit that was going on.
It's like the lying by omission almost.
And so the Iran-Contra story for me is so big. It's like I'm like wondering like where I even start.
That's like the hardest start to an Iran-Contra thing because you haven't even started with like what the normal story is, which is already so hard to do because it's almost like two interrelated but very distant places. Iran and
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, but also
all
like
of Central
Costa
America.
Rica, and like it's that whole area, but it's like ostensibly Nicaragua. And then you've got like what's going on with like weapons sales, what's going on with like us wanting to influence the like politics of Nicaragua, like using Israel as a conduit for selling like munitions to our quote unquote enemies in Iran, which had just become like a quote unquote like rogue nation or whatever.
After
in late
years
70s.
of CIA tampering in the...
we're not doing any... Basically, it's, I mean, as far as I know and can cobble together, it's like in the middle of the Reagan administration, there was a small group mainly run out of the National Security Council using Oliver North, who was a Marine lieutenant colonel, or colonel, I forgot, to try to accomplish multiple things at once outside of the mainstream of what Congress would allow. So Congress said, hey, Reagan administration, no more meddling in like Central American.
It was a Democrat majority Congress.
Yeah, no more meddling with like their elections and trying to like do like CIA operations down there and all that stuff. We're cutting off all the funding and it's illegal if you do it. And so
they're like, we'll just raise the money ourselves.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, well, how do we get like money and supplies down to like our freedom fighters who are like, you know, hanging out just over the border in like Costa Rica or whatever, and that we're training. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to like sell a bunch of weapons through, I believe, mostly through Israel to Iran, use that money to then funnel it to people we were supporting, trying to overtake the newly, you know, installed regime in Nicaragua. Interestingly, both of those countries had turned against the United States in 1979.
Yeah,
I think that's what's like kind of an interesting like parallel between the two of them.
Right.
But otherwise, they're like
the Shah falls in
apart.
Iran in 79.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But then it was like journalists like Bob Perry and other journalists started to write about these specifically in Central America, these like illegal weapons sales, like, you know, they're documenting, you know, military transport or like Air America, like CIA proprietary planes going into Central America and arming these people. And, you know, the government's official stance, and Reagan is going on TV in his fireside chat saying, this is not happening. Like, it's simply not. This is a lie. I don't, you know. Then this transport plane with this guy named Eugene Hassenfuss, who was a used to do. He was a paratrooper, I think, in Vietnam, and then he was retired. He was working construction in Milwaukee, and like what the economy was really bad at that time, and he got a job for this company to do airdrops down in Central America. And one of the things that they said, like part of his like agreement when he was hired on, was that you can't bring a parachute. And he smuggled his own parachute onto the plane, and a Sandinista, which was like the left-wing group in that the right-wing dudes were fighting in Nicaragua, shot down his plane with like a shoulder rocket. And he parachuted down. Everybody else died, and they captured him. And so it was like obvious that, and he started talking like they were like, they couldn't keep lying about what was going on in Nicaragua anymore.
Right. And so by the late 80s, I mean, this is only part of the story.
And there's also that guy, Barry Seal. They made that movie American Made with Tom Cruise that's all because there's this whole drug smuggling component to it.
There's also like the hostages thing that happens, like Iran withholds hostages.
That's the October surprise.
Oh, that's
But that's when I think that Iran-Contra really started. Oh, there were hostages in Lebanon.
There was the second hostage crisis was happening during. Yeah. Man, people are going to assail us for like our shitty version of like the Iran-Contra.
It's 4th of July, dude. We were all having a great time this weekend, celebrating American independence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the October surprise, which we get into it, which was like the lead into the could be considered like one of the reasons that Reagan got elected surreptitiously. Is an interesting parallel, and there's all kinds of interesting parallels of like this network that was discovered in what 86. Hasenfuss goes down 85, 86, maybe 87.
Yeah, I think it was 86.
Our show is largely, and Danny's investigation is largely about similar parallel operations with the same group of people. I mean, he talks about Iran-Contra, but the stuff that was happening in the years and decades before that have basically set up the template for Iran-Contra, which is that you have a bunch of dudes in the government and outside of the government who used to work with the government working together to funnel money and arms to places and people who they want to support that are being supported outside of like U.S. law, right?
Right.
So it's happening in the Cabazon Desert with people who became involved with Iran-Contra when in part of our story that takes place in Southern California. It's happening allegedly with the hostages that were taken in Iran during the takeover of the embassy, which was used allegedly to, tilt the favor against Jimmy Carter in the U.S. presidential election in 1980. And then even before that in the 70s, like parallel operations. So it's basically about a network of people
right
who do shit for money and politics.
Specifically at the behest of the U.S. government to do regime change or coup d'etats.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, no. I think that they also, some of these jobs are little get-rich-quick schemes, like it's doesn't matter, and they're doing it on their own accord. I think it does have international repercussions, but
certainly there's middlemen along the way getting rich the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I want you to know that there are still good people in the world, and there are still people out there fighting for you. So here's a story. There's a guy riding a water slide, right? He's at this amazing water park. He's about to go down the slide. All of a sudden, as he's going down, flies into the air, lands on his back, and has permanent, life-changing injuries. He's still dealing with them 4 or 5 years later, and he's having a hard time getting paid. You know what I mean? He gets injured at this massive, massive water park owned by Disney, of all people, and can't even get a cent out of their attorneys. So that's why he called Morgan & Morgan. He called Morgan & Morgan, and quickly they represented him in his lawsuit against Disney for damages, citing what they called lax safety measures. The lawsuit alleges that Disney either failed to warn him properly or failed to make the ride safe, and they argue that the design itself created a dangerous condition. And thankfully for this guy, because he called Morgan & Morgan, he will get justice in his case, just like the 500,000 other clients that got the compensation that they deserved over Morgan & Morgan's 35-year career. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm with over $25 billion recovered. I'm telling you, hiring the wrong law firm can be disastrous, and hiring the right one could substantially increase your settlement. With Morgan & Morgan, it's so easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win your case. So just visit forthepeople.com/Gagnon, Gagnon, or dial #law. That's #529. That is forthepeople.com/Gagnon, or dial #law. That's #529. This is a paid advertisement. Now let's get back to the show. What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because you own a small business, or maybe you work for a small business, and I am about to make your life so much easier. Let's say, hypothetically, you own a little, furniture business, right? And you're struggling to keep track of the raw materials, the production schedule, invoicing clients, all that stuff. Well, that's why I want to tell you about Odoo, okay? Because with Odoo, it's an all-in-one business platform that streamlines everything. Now you have inventory management, you have manufacturing, you have accounting apps that will make everything so simple. So now if you have a small business, you can monitor the inventory in real time, schedule production calls more effectively, and you can send invoices automatically, all from one platform. Plus, you get a customized CRM to track sales leads and follow up with potential clients, boosting your closing rates. Back in the day, you'd probably have to get, some, Ivy League operator, business person that's, able to make everything happen for you. But now with Odoo, it cuts it all out. And I'm sure you're thinking, okay, if this is going to make my life easier, give me more free time to spend with my friends, family, and playing softball, and make me more money, it must be crazy expensive. This is the good news. Listeners of this program are going to get a 14-day free trial. That's right. You get 2 weeks with Odoo completely for free when you go to odoo.com/camp. That's right. Odoo.com. Use the promo code CAMP and you will get 14 days for free. Just to try it out. See if you like it. If it's not for you, you don't need it. All right. But Odoo is going to make your life so much easier. Everything you need all in one place. Save time. Make more money. Now let's get back to the show. So there's a whole confluence of power and money that is kind of creating this web. And Danny Casolaro at this time in the late 80s, of the American society, is sort of none the wiser to kind of how the U.S. affairs and how the CIA sort of operates in these different countries. And he's kind of piecing together this story.
And he's also,
maybe we could bring it back to how you originally started, which is you were like the concept of a limited hangout, right? Which comes from the Nixon administration, right? But it's like all this stuff was known that we know now about Ari-Ben Contra had already come up by 1990 when Danny started this investigation.
Yeah,
right?
mostly.
But what he's writing about and what people, I think, subsequently wrote about and were correct is what I was saying, like these larger networks, that this is actually part of a larger pattern. It goes back years and involves the same crimes, the same criminals, and that the Iran, in that view, Ari-Ben Contra itself was a limited hangout. Coincidentally, sometimes people say that our show is a limited hangout because it's a concept that, like, it's hard to disprove a negative. Like it's just a hall of mirrors.
And it touches a lot of the like Octopus as it exists on Reddit or wherever online. Like there are other tendrils and tentacles and storylines and subplots and plots that we weren't able to fit into a 4-episode show. And so because our favorite part because their favorite parts of the case like didn't get featured, like we must,
or something they read about somewhere didn't get featured. It's like, well, these guys are like one of them that I saw the other day, it was on IMDb. It's like obviously a limited hangout, but informative nonetheless.
Interesting.
Like,
so
was it that obvious?
They're accusing you of just being like disinformation agents, that you guys are kind of leading people down like a limited truth.
Yeah, that we're just like kind of covering up for our like handlers back at the agency, which would be awesome if it were true.
Yeah, you guys don't strike me as as agency guys, to be honest.
Agency guys never strike you as agency guys. That's the whole point of agency guys.
Oh, that's a good point, dude. Oh, man, we got to trade. You guys are have lines all the way back to Langley. I already know it. You're already tapped in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious, like, I wonder if being on Netflix also impacts that. Like, I wonder if people see Netflix and they go, oh, this is a sanitized thing, and they have studio notes that tell them not to go too far, da-da-da. Is any of that true?
I mean, I thought it was really, our executives that we worked with were, we were trying to make the show make sense to a broad audience. And
it's a complicated story. And really, like, the executives were like, well, we don't understand it, so you guys understand it, so do the thing, but just make it good, and
make it understandable.
Yeah,
that was usually what they were asking for, which is like make it understandable.
Yeah, of
which
course.
Is extremely difficult.
Yeah, with like a true crime case, it's like pretty clear. You know what I mean? It's like this woman got murdered, and these are the 3 suspects, and let's figure out who done it. You know what I mean? But something like this, it's like an interconnected web that's already quasi-conspiratorial on its face, plus a death that is also inherently conspiratorial.
And then multiple deaths that are tied to that he's investigating, and then like not talking about like, oh, just like a year of time, not talking about a decade of time, but it eventually goes into like multiple decades.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, what is this story even? Like what the hell is so diffuse, right?
Yeah.
But what is kind of exciting about it is like that feeling of being like lost in this, like what Angleton famously called the wilderness of mirrors. That I think that we actually do kind of capture that feeling, which is meant to be I hope we do. This is meant to be invoked by actual operations as they happen, which is like infinite layers of deniability and obfuscation.
It's also interesting to think about it from Danny Casolaro's perspective, because he, like, Anne Clank, who's his friend and she's in the film, she's like always reminds us that he was a suburban dad in DC, in the suburbs of DC, and he's like, it's 1990. Eugene Hassenfuss was shot down 4 years earlier. I mean, this stuff's like pretty fresh. And he's just like driving around DC, and it's like he's like kind of in the thick of it, with like actual spies lurking around that he kind of meets and whatever. I mean,
well, and we never really even dwell on this in the show. It's like he's born in McLean, Virginia, which is where the CIA is, right?
And Angleton, who you mentioned earlier, was his neighbor growing up, James Jesus Angleton, like really legend, like.
And he had friends who were in NSA.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a limited hangout in that I wish we had been able to go into so many things,
Yeah,
like,
I'm curious.
I guess why we come on. We did tell ourselves, like, we can go on to podcasts when it's done and, like, tell all the rest of the stories we didn't get to fit in.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've really done that. Really.
I mean, open forum, like, before we jump to, like, Danny and, like, sort of his death and the fallout from that, what are the details from the doc that didn't make it? Like, if there was an episode, 6, 7, 8, what other threads and tendrils would be discussed?
I mean, there's so much stuff.
And we're working on a spinoff.
Well, we'd like to do more on it, but, like, the things, like, we haven't even talked about stuff in the desert, but things that Danny was looking into at the Cabazon Indian Reservation, and things that, like, Doc Nichols got into, and
what is that?
And Phil Thompson. Oh God, there's like so many.
But there's also the
well, there's
the boat in Majorca. The Lady Ghislaine.
Oh,
I've heard of
yeah,
her.
because that is a big. Okay, yeah, that's a good place to start, right? Because it's like,
tell me about Robert Maxwell.
Right. Danny started with Promise Software, and there's a whole other way that we could have taken it and been much more topical, and successful, where the Promise Software that he's investigating, because he's in DC, that company Inslaw, which made the Promise Software, is in DC. This guy Bill Hamilton that owns the company is in DC, and they're going into all of this stuff about, my software was stolen by the Justice Department, used as spy software, repackaged, hacked with a backdoor, and now it's being used all over the world to, like, spy on people and other intelligence agencies and corporations and whatever, right? And then if we had gone, it's so confusing because you get this guy, Michael Riconosciuto, and he brings the story kind of out to the desert and with what was going on out there in California. But there's another way you can go with it, which is the Maxwell angle.
Right.
Which
but we were telling Danny's story, and Danny was fascinated by what was happening in the desert, and Robert Maxwell was still alive. Like, Danny died in August 1991. Robert Maxwell died in November 1991. So, like, that...
Well, should we really quickly just talk about who Robert Maxwell was? Right. So it's like, he's a publishing magnate at the time who was, I don't know, born in like Czechoslovakia, right? But he lived in
London,
in UK.
Yeah.
But he had ties to
Mossad.
Well, Israel at least. He's buried in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He was Jewish, and he was like the kind of this power broker, much in the mold of what we think of as like Rupert Murdoch now.
Mm-hmm.
He's a publisher. They were competitors. But he we know was ferrying information between different countries, right? I mean, would you say we know that? Like, there's that Robert Maxwell
I think
is
like
like
it's
super spy.
confirmed that he was a spy, I think.
Yeah.
But
because he had access to, like, he could talk to people in the USSR at the time, in the 70s and 80s. This is how the story goes. He could like move between these different worlds because he was a larger than life figure. One of the
it's like Earl Bryan, who was there's this American publishing guy who we mentioned in our show, was in charge of or allegedly in charge of the distribution of Promise for the United States. Israel was also involved, and their version of Earl Bryan, their publisher that's, using, that's distributing the software for them, supposedly is Robert Maxwell. And his daughter is Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Jeffrey Epstein's, girlfriend and confidant. Yeah.
Yeah.
But two more facts about Robert Maxwell that's interesting. Number one, he only wiped his ass with actual towels, like never toilet paper.
That's true.
Well, or often.
Okay,
that was like
I don't remember that
one.
one.
Reading along the way
In hotels or at his home.
No, I think at his home.
And at hotels, you can kind of look past.
How about on that boat?
I wonder about the boat. It's like, what are you doing on?
Yeah,
his boat was named the Ghislaine.
Lady Ghislaine.
Right. So take us to the boat. What happens to this guy?
So 1991. He suffers like allegedly a heart attack or something.
He went overboard.
Right.
Body gone, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So and then
I believe he falls overboard and drowns. It's just my understanding.
I thought it was like cardiac arrest, but maybe it's a combination. Your heart eventually stops at some point. So and one of the
like I'm picturing footage of his funeral, and I'm picturing a closed casket, but maybe there was. I don't know if there's a body in it or not. I don't know.
But one of it turned out that he had been doing this like pension fund fraud at the time, and he was like his empire was kind of going under at the time, and I think his son or sons went to jail, or were definitely indicted for being a part of that at the time. Yeah. So there was this whole like, well, he maybe committed suicide, or like he knew it was the end because like the jig was up on his like fraud that he had been perpetrating for a long time, and his media publishing empire was in a lot worse shape than he made it seem, right? Then there's this whole other theory that like Mossad took him out on the boat, and that it was all potentially even tied to like his dissemination of the Promise software. And there was like a spy named Rafi Itan who claimed that he had been involved with the not the assassination, but with the distribution of software,
and that he was maybe like a double agent, like Robert Maxwell was maybe
playing
like both sides,
playing all sides. Yes, I believe. Well, I mean, he would never be on like the U.S.'s side, I don't think.
One of my great regrets, just as an aside, this guy that he mentioned, Rafi Itan, is like this legendary Israeli spy.
He got
Adolf
Eichmann out
That's
of
his
Argentina.
biggest thing.
That was his big operation. But he was also called Rafi the Stinker. Not that I'm like totally fascinated by scatological stuff, but he was called Rafi the Stinker.
For what reason?
Because some operation he was involved with involved him going through the sewer.
Gross.
Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, that's kind of fucked up, right? Like, you do this whole thing for your nation, and then they call you the stinker. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, like, I'm willing to go through shit for my people.
Yeah,
And this is how
literally.
You remember me? You know what I mean? Like,
So, and then through a third party, I got information that he said, supposedly, that his greatest achievement as a spy was the backdoor and the distribution of the promised software. So it would be a major coup to get him to like confirm it for sure, because it's like some affidavit, that some author had him sign, but it's like, let's hear him say it.
Fascinating.
I got his cell number, and we got it. I have a friend out in Israel who somehow knew somebody who knew his neighbor or whatever.
Small country,
Got his number. But then I wanted to have my ducks in a row, and so put off calling him to do a little bit more research, and then he died.
Whoa.
A month later.
So you never know what state he was in, when I finally got the number, but I do regret not just calling him.
Damn, this must have been pretty recent, right?
No, this was a long time ago.
Really?
This is like 2018, 2019.
Wow.
It was like when we were first starting the doc, really. And it was like, kind of kicked us into gear of like, okay,
we got to move.
All these people are old as hell. Like, there will be more people who die while we make this. And that was true.
Right.
And it's like, you just got to like go when the story's this old.
Tell me, when you say, oh, we could have gone the Robert Maxwell angle, it would have been topical, kind of tied into, obviously Epstein and that whole, scandal, that whole ring that went on, which turns out he killed himself, by the way. You guys saw the news, right?
Epstein.
Yeah, Kash Patel and Bongino said that he killed himself.
Oh, is that just like the other day or today or something?
Yeah, so
cool.
On the book. So RIP to him, and we wish him well. But how does that tie in with what, Danny Casolaro was working on directly? Was that a part of the Octopus?
Oh,
that he was kind of
promised distribution.
The software that got Danny started on the whole thing. The allegation would be that Maxwell was distributing it internationally, where Earl Bryan was doing it sort of domestically,
or he was doing it.
They divided up or he was doing it for Israel. Sorry.
Right, he was selling. Yeah. Maxwell was selling it for Israel. Bryan for the United States.
Right.
Alrighty, don't skip forward, guys, because I am on the road, world's fastest ad read, coming at you. I'm going to be at Stanford, Levittown, Chandler, Arizona, San Diego. I'm also going to be adding Toronto, Montreal, as well as Washington, D.C., and a bunch of other dates. Dates are in the description, also in probably the comments of this episode. Go see me on the road. Come hang out. I'll be hanging out with everyone after the show. Come shake my hand. Call me an idiot. Whatever you want to do, I will be there. Additionally, I will be doing my 1 hour of stand-up comedy. I'm very proud of this hour. I'm really excited to share it with you guys, and it would mean the world if everyone could come on out. And what do you wear to a show on the road? That's a great question. You can go to campgoods.co. That's right. We got merch. We got camp merch. We got hats, hoodies, t-shirts. A lot of stuff is out of stock. Things have been selling like hotcakes, but we're going to be restocking everything in all the sizes. So you can go there right now, get all the merch, get all the coolest clothing in the podcast game. We're going to be updating that site regularly. And if you come out to a show, I'd love to see you sporting some of the threads that we got up online. I'll see you guys there. Let's get back to the show. So was the consolidation of the Promise software, was there one singular governing body that was able to access all the information? Was that U.S. intelligence? Was it a joint venture?
I mean, this is the sort of like
also
screwy allegation, but like the idea, if you believe the allegations, would be that, U.S. intelligence, NSA, would have the ability to access like everybody else's thing. But then if you believe the other side of it, the Maxwell side of it, then you'd believe that like Mossad or whatever, Israel would have access to all that stuff. Presumably, they'd be more interested in what's going on in their neighborhood.
You would think, or it's some type of joint venture, right?
We do talk about that. I mean, it's not like we don't mention Israel having Promise, like this other guy who we don't get into. Here's a good person we don't get into, Ari-Ben Menashe.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we talk about him, but there's so much like a world. I mean, he's still alive.
Yeah.
There's such a world of interesting stuff around that guy who's like a spy, a intelligence operative for Israel, not necessarily Mossad, but part of the IDF, who is now living in Canada as what seems like an arms dealing kind of guy, public relation consulting.
Consulting's good.
Who Danny talked to from our story about like Promise, which we mentioned, but he also like at the time had just gotten himself out of a year-long prosecution, sitting in the same jail. Not to be like this guy, but sitting in the same jail that Epstein died in.
Yeah.
Downtown. He spent a year fighting the U.S. government with a public defender, saying, the allegation was like that he had sold 3 C-130s or something like that. It's 3 planes to like our enemies, quote unquote, like North Korea, I think, or Iran or something like that.
I can't remember who.
But they arrested him on like, weapons and or like material, illegal selling of weaponry. He sits in that jail for a year, gets a public defender, and manages to get himself over the course of like what, an 89 to 90, right before Danny talks to him. He spends like a year fighting that and wins. He gets the court to like ask Israel, like, are you, or whatever, his lawyers ask Israel, like, has this guy ever worked in intelligence? They're like, no. And then he
was
produces
a translator.
He was a low-level translator. Then he produces documents saying, oh no, he worked for Israeli intelligence for IDF. And then they're like, oh yeah, like he did. And he like produces his passports like this thick with him going to like North Korea and like all this stuff. And so eventually his defense was, I was just working for my country. Like,
and they hung him out to dry. So now he's just like pissed and talking.
Wow. That seems messy.
Like he wrote a book called I cannot remember what it you might be able to find it, but
it's it's not Gods of War, Prophets of War.
Prophets of War.
PROF.
He in the book he said there's a chapter on the Promise software, and he's like, it came out that Michael Rakanashudo said that the software was the back door was installed on the Cabazon reservation. Like, I know about the Cabazon reservation. It wasn't out there. It was actually my guy, like, this Israeli American guy that he knew in like
Southern California.
Yeah, and he names him, and so me and Zach were like, got the movie contract. We gotta figure out as much as we possibly can about, or whatever. Obviously, we got to figure out this whole story. So we go to this guy's house to be like, yo, did you install the back door on the Promise software?
Well, and we got his wife. His wife was the only one that would talk to us.
Yeah.
I think she put him on like speaker, or like she got him on the phone somehow. But basically, like, she was just like laughing. She was just like, Harry, like, you believing that guy? Like he stayed at our house one time.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
my husband has like no idea how to like hack software like that. But then at a certain point you're like, who knows what?
Who do we believe?
Who do you believe when you deal with all this stuff? And that's the sort of whole problem with the Octopus and that Danny had and that we had, is the like, where do you draw the line between like who you believe, who you don't, when you don't have like, something happened. Something happened. Either there's a disinformation campaign happening, or something very bad and dark happened, or the combination of the two. And it's tied up within like lies and liars. And you're trying to sort through all the weeds. And then you have to say like, what happened? And like,
and
at some point, like, you're just like,
no one knows, really.
Like, and we were upfront about that. Like, we were upfront about the limitations of our investigation, and I think we were also really upfront that we like really took it as further than anybody else. And like I saw some criticism of us for not including a series of ex-girlfriends of Danny's, like talking about their theories about what happened to him, and it's like, they didn't ask this girl what she thought. And it's like, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
She
She
dated
has
him
an
when they were
opinion,
19.
but I don't.
Yeah.
We can't do that much.
Which
with, like,
I think is
somebody's
actually.
opinion. I mean, their opinions matter. Everybody's opinion matters, but it'll just confuse.
Yeah.
You know.
Which I think is credit actually to the work that you guys did, that it's not hyper sensational, right? Like you could have gone in a direction that was like, this guy did it, and this is why, and this is what he was uncovering, and this is who's implicated, and made like very clear lines and like drawn smoking guns. Obviously, we know documentary filmmakers can make things seem very, very compelling. And it seems like you guys kind of went in a much more sort of journalistic and, in my opinion, like a more honest approach. Like, hey, there's a bunch of different theories. We're tying it together the best we can, and this is more or less what, the conclusion that you guys can draw from it is.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe for a lot of America is maybe unsatisfying because they're like,
yeah, I think it's unsatisfying for people, which is understandable because we were never satisfied. We were like
right.
changing things till past the deadlines of like when we were in color grade, swapping out things, trying to like push the investigation further, like
already 7 years,
pushing the deadline.
7 years into this project.
And it's like, we wanted to know the answer to every single question we asked.
Of course.
What maybe we could have, there's a thing, that you can do with framing that I think we could have done better, which is, at least for our own sanity, which is like set the goalposts a little lower, and like make clear like how many things we introduced into the public that had never been seen before and make a bigger deal out of that. Like the pictures that you're seeing are crime scene photographs that no one has had access to before ever because we FOIA'd them. We fought for those. We got them. Nobody has seen that stuff.
The police audio.
The police sketch, the police audio, all these like characters that you're hearing. Nobody has ever heard those recordings outside of sometimes law enforcement, sometimes like journalists who are now dead, but like they'd never been public before. So it's like, if you're like inside baseball and you know this stuff, it would be extremely exciting to you. But that club is pretty small. It's like us and a few people, and they're already disgruntled because they didn't make the documentary.
Sure.
So, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is like, I think that we did solve a bunch of, this is sounding so self-serving, but like we tried to capture the feeling of going on the adventure that Danny went on with the benefit of 30 years hindsight and taking it as far as we could past the limits that we were given and do it somewhat responsibly, like you said. And I think that like when it comes to like what's going on with, when you go all the way back to like, okay, we've talked about murders in Southern California that Danny was trying to solve, murder in San Francisco that he was trying to solve, which I think that we pushed those way further than has ever been public before. Some of us think that we solved it. Some of us think that it's open-ended, between the two of us, but we're pushed it really far. And then you come back to Danny and it's like, what happened to this guy? Was it Robert Nichols? Was it Joe Cuellar? Did he just kill himself? Which is always a possibility, of course. Like the stuff that we presented on that had never been published before about inconsistencies in the federal and local narrative.
Right.
And it's like, well, when you have inconsistencies, it's a matter of like, is it meaningful or not? Right. And some of these are meaningful in a way that's like, doesn't make sense. Could Joe Cuellar have, I guess this is like a sort of spoilers alert thing, but it's been announced a year or so, whatever. Could Joe Cuellar have been hiding stuff because he was involved with intelligence and you just inherently hide stuff? Yeah, quite possibly. Was he the kind of guy who has, eliminated people for other operations? I think quite likely. So it's like the fact that they were talking so close to the end of Danny's life, that Danny told people that he was going to meet him in West Virginia. I don't know. A lot of that stuff just hadn't.
I've like had
really been.
I've like wondered. I mean, not with no basis, just flight of fancy. If it was, what if it was like an a training operation? Like, let's see if we can actually kill a journalist and make it seem like a suicide, and let's try it in the field, and like he's like an unaffiliated journalist, and he's kind of poking around. He's kind of got it, and just like, let's see if we can like get in, get out, make it clean. Or
That's very dark.
Yeah, but I mean,
who knows?
Who knows, right?
But I mean, I don't actually think that, but that's just like, laying in bed at night, like wondering like what happened,
So you mentioned a discrepancy between the two of you, perhaps, as far as like who you think maybe actually did kill Danny.
Well, no, we were talking about the Paul Maraska murder, and I feel like when you see in episode 3, I make this case for who did it and why, and I
think is likely.
Yeah. And so I like to say I solved it. Zach likes to say, did you solve it? I think, he's like, he's a bully. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's so big. I mean, he's so much bigger than you.
I know.
I mean, like, he's
beating up on him.
4 inches taller than you, as the audience can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm curious, like, with the death of Danny, he's getting these calls 3, 4 in the morning, people just saying like, hey, drop dead, hang up, random radio on the other side, hang up, like shit from like a horror movie, right? Like just these ominous looming phone calls as confirmed by his housekeeper at the time. All of this,
various people.
All of this is leading up to his eventual death, which has been ruled a suicide by 2 different coroner reports. I'm curious, in the sort of fallout from this, and as the documentary's been released,
it's weird when
more people's coming out.
When you're so like aware of the possibility that you will mysteriously die and you're getting death threats regularly, it's weird to then mysteriously die. It's just,
right.
Obviously, I mean, that's kind of what the movie's about.
You're just saying if that happened, he was doing
no, it's just sort of like, like it makes you think like, well, no shit, like it was a murder by pros, just because of that. Well, who was threatening, who were making those calls, and like that was another difficult thing. Like we got his phone records. No, we didn't get his phone records. We got his phone bills. So we only know the long distance calls that he was making. You don't get charged at that point for your local calls in DC and Northern Virginia, which is like where all this shit was going down. So there's a huge blind spot and nobody, I mean, it's impossible for us now, but nobody at the time like petitioned the phone company, subpoenaed it to get like, cause like this friend of Danny's Ben, he could have remembered what he was standing next to Danny when this call came in. It was like a threat call. And Danny just goes, just make it quick, brother. And like hangs it up. According to Ben, that's what happened. And, so he could remember, he could tell the police like on this date at around this time, like what are the numbers that are coming in? Who are these people that are calling? You know what I mean?
So, or like, aren't the like long distance records that we got, isn't it like up until just like 2 days before he dies also?
Yeah.
And then like somehow like the police didn't get the records.
There's another bill that would have come. So like I think it cuts off like a week out, and then so like the last week,
I think
or
it's
something,
even like the last 2 or 3 days, which was like that was so frustrating. It's like we petition, we FOIA to get all the records from the police department in West Virginia where he died, and we're sort of like at that point, it's like we're gonna, this is gonna have everything, and then you're like, damn, you guys didn't even like ask for all the bills. Like,
yeah,
another thing on that,
the most crucial 48 hours.
Like, Danny smoked Carlton menthol 100s from like the age of 13 until the age of 44 when he passed away, and he had a carton or like a half carton of Carltons with him in West Virginia, and there were Carlton cigarettes in the ashtrays. In the ashtrays in the bathroom and in the ashtrays in the main part of the suite. And there were 2 Marlboro cigarette butts. And supposedly nobody else was in the room with him. Nobody has said they were in the room with him. And, why would you smoke 2 Marlboros if you smoke Carltons and
have plenty of cigarettes?
And that's, why would you bum Marlboros off somebody?
Right.
Wouldn't it be cool to like test those Marlboros for DNA?
But why would you test if it was obviously a suicide?
Right. And so then when we showed up at at that law firm, and that guy's like, we have no physical evidence, no cigarette butts, because we wanted to test the cigarette butts, but they threw them away. Right. So there's like 30 years later, there's so many, it's so hard. When it was already hard,
Things that seem obvious in the moment, like, oh, they would have obviously gone through and done their due diligence to test.
They might not have had DNA.
No, they had DNA.
Did they have it then?
Yeah, because think about when like Phil went to jail.
That was like 2000.
Oh, really? No, but they had.
I think it would have been like just before DNA would have been used in court, because I think OJ was like 94, 95, something like that. And I think that was.
Why Google it when you can speculate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. But either way, it wasn't even considered a homicide. So it was like kind of a miracle that the records even still existed in what we got, except for it was such a crazy case for the police department. It was like the biggest case they ever dealt with.
Right.
Wrongful, unattended death is what they call it, right? So they kept it just kind of out of, I don't know why, curiosity or some feeling of obligation. But
their lack of candor is bizarre. I mean, like the lead detective from that investigation in 1991, I don't know about today, but at the time we were putting together the film, he was the chief of police of the town, and he won't let any of his there were like a team of probably like 5 to 7 police officers that did various tasks on the investigation, including this guy, and he kind of made it clear, don't talk about this case. We're not talking about it. There's nothing to be said. And we tried to talk to him. I mean, it'd be amazing to have a candid conversation with this guy, just like hearing about all the things that he did that were helpful. Like, he did discover some things and have interesting conversations with people on it. I would love to hear the perspective of a small town police detective who's like investigating this case of this guy from out of town who's caught up in all this international intrigue. I mean, it must have been fascinating for them.
And your outreach to them resulted
I think they were
in nothing.
They were burned by the media. I understand. I feel like I understand it, of just like, it has never helped us in the past to talk to the media. Why would it help now? Like, we got burned by everybody saying that we were part of a cover up, and then like now we're gonna like open this thing up again, and we're gonna get seen as a bunch of like small town knuckleheads who don't know how to investigate a case. Like, I've solved 1,000 cases. Why am I getting persecuted over this one? But so, like,
as far as the suspect you lay out, how many of them are still alive, and are you concerned about how you represented them in the documentary? Like, what is your feeling on that now?
The main 2 suspects for me are Robert Booth Nichols, who is supposedly dead, and Joe Cuellar, who is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I mean, I don't know about concern with how we portrayed them, but it's like, would have been awesome to talk to Joe Cuellar. He was alive when Christian started this thing.
And like, it was another one of those things where it was like, I was scared to talk to him, and what do I say anyway? Like, hey, did you like kill this dude, or like what?
Were there any details about Joe Cuellar that were not included in the doc, or anything that you guys uncovered that you couldn't fully substantiate, but you kind of speculated on? That you're like, oh, this would be interesting, but we can't
biographical things.
Like what was the thing about him? Like, his son was like, I know for a fact that he like trained the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Right, like that was an interesting.
Bin Laden.
I feel like, or Bin Laden.
Didn't he say that in the doc though?
Did we say that? I feel like maybe we didn't include that because it was like too confusing to people or something. But here's what like we would have loved to do is, like, when you're dealing with these guys, Joe Cuellar is a highly decorated, seemingly special forces intelligence operative who is in a world that like is extremely opaque. We're like not connected with any, like big news thing. Talking to people that knew him besides his son was so difficult. So it's just like, it's, people who worked with him. We tried to reach out through the small network of like special forces guys on like Facebook and stuff like that. It's just nobody would talk, you know. And it's like there's a code of silence, which I can understand, I guess, but it just makes it so hard. You know, it's intentionally hard to get to the bottom of people like that.
Right.
What we showed was that like he lied to the FBI. The FBI had ample evidence to know that he was lying to them, and nobody called themselves out on it or investigated further. And everybody was just like doing a kind of omerta thing around whatever Joe wanted to be out there. And you see that I think you see that in the Martinsburg police files, right? Because they're like, didn't somebody meet with him? Or maybe it was Ann. Somebody met with him and was like, oh, he's just a fruitcake. Like they're meeting him at his office in the Pentagon or near the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, this guy's just a fruitcake. And it's like, okay, but you're sitting in, you know, he's like, he's a special forces intelligence operative. If he's presenting himself as a fruitcake, there's a reason.
Maybe, yeah, this is a part of a deliberate sort of character that he's taken on.
You're not meeting him in a mental institution. You're not meeting him at a McDonald's. You're meeting him
at the Pentagon.
At the Pentagon, or in his office in a military facility.
Right. So
like,
I'm curious.
He knows stuff.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because you need to rebrand your crotch. That's right. You need a full rebrand on your dong, and you're going to do it with Blue Chew. Because Blue Chew, their tablets aren't just for better sex. No, they are like if Tony Robbins give a motivational speech right to your wiener. You know, I mean, you're gonna feel amazing. Look, I just took one of Blue Chew's tablets today, and suddenly, I mean, look at me, I'm glowing. This table, absolutely getting crushed underneath it. Right? My penis is giving a press conference. Okay, feeling great. Never been better. So whether you're trying to make, you know, a memorable moment with your sweet love, or you're just trying to give, you know, a friend of yours or a girl you know, like some crazy group chat fodder, something for the girls to gossip about, Blue Chew is absolutely the chewable tablet delivery service that you need to bring the thunder. And the best part is that we got a special deal for the listeners of this lovely program. Get your first month for free at bluechew.com. Just use the promo code GAGNON at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 for shipping. That's like a cup of coffee, all right? $5 for shipping. You're going to get free Blue Chew straight to your door. So upgrade your legacy. Let your name ring out for eons. And let's get back to the show. Based on the research you've done on this case, because I imagine this case is not unlike other cases where people, you know, mysteriously, you know, die under some sort of strange circumstance. I wonder if you had to, without, you know, saying a specific suspect in particular, but like how would this kind of thing work in general, right? Like there's a guy that is getting close to uncovering, you know, some type of web or a network or some type of consolidation of power that he should not be getting into.
Or maybe he's a witness in a case.
The guy needs to go. So then a call gets made to some type of like hitman for hire that kind of operates in the fringes of, you know, society. Or is done from a centralized level. Like,
I don't know if we can. I have no idea.
Like, if you had to speculate, I guess. Like, is it like they work? Like, I guess I'm wondering, like, you know, like how many levels.
There's a guy named Don Bolles, Bolles, and he was a investigative reporter in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe. And in like 1972, you know, he was investigating some like mobbed up like land deal, shady, fraudy land thing, and his car got blown up. Mm-hmm. You know, he got in the car to start the car, and boom, he's dead. So like, you know, that kind of stuff happens, or like, you know, in that book, The Last Investigation by Gaten Fonzie, there's like all of those like JFK adjacent, you know, knowledgeable people who like mysteriously die.
Right.
I think it's interesting when people say, you know, the kind of cliche almost where people these days, some like pissed off husband or wife hires a hitman to kill their spouse to get money or get a divorce or whatever, you know, avoid getting divorced, I guess. And then they end up hiring like a informant or a fed or something like that.
Then they inform her and she cries on TV and she's like, "Oh my God, she died! No way!" And like they'll take her to prison. I saw that one specifically.
Okay. So the thing that you always see afterwards is somebody in law enforcement says, oh, well, there's actually no such thing as a hitman. Have you noticed that? They're like, there's nobody who actually, if you try to hire somebody who's like a hitman, it's like a figment of our imaginations collectively.
The Richard Linklater movie says that.
About
the movie Hitman.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually no such thing as a hitman.
Right.
know?
But it's like, okay, well, if you look at any of the mob stories, right? It's like, yeah, those guys aren't just hitmen.
Yeah.
But they're people that you pay and they kill someone. They also have like loan sharking going on.
Yeah, of course.
It's just like this sort of idea that you in America. I mean, I don't want to like
Ghost Dog was based on a true story, right?
I don't want to like harp on this too much or invite imitators, but it's like this idea that you just can't like hire a person to eliminate somebody else in America is like a weird myth to me. I mean, this is kind of like outside of whatever we're talking about. I just find that a very strange concept.
Well,
like
it is a job.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a job.
Hustle,
it's a side hustle. So maybe it's not every day.
Have you seen
9 to 5?
The website hirehitman.com? This is like would you mind Googling this, kid? You don't necessarily need to do .com, but there was like a whole thing where like, I think someone made it as a joke and then it became basically like kind of like a large net for people like trying to kill people. And like,
but then it became a federal, I assume.
Yeah.
Then like the feds are like, oh yeah,
like
this is
an op.
how we it's like a honeypot or whatever.
Rent a Hitman. It was a satirical website that then became like
Yeah.
an actual website where
But this is one of these things
dumb
where
people
they
were trying
say like, oh yeah, this is just like further proof that like there is no such thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well, there's clearly a market for it.
You read like The Last Mafioso, or you read any of those mob books, and like people are getting hired all the time to kill other people.
So
It's
I
like,
guess I'm
tragic.
I'm curious,
Horrible.
like how many layers like does the cover up need to be? Because I hear these things all the time. Where like, again, I was telling Zach before, like my mom was a conspiracy theorist, and she would always tell me conspiracies, and I'm like, okay, but this person's in on it. She's like, yes, and I'm like, and this person? She's like, yes, and I'm like, okay, so everyone's in on it, and as soon as everyone's in on it, then I don't believe it. You know what I mean? So like, the coroner says, oh, this was obviously a suicide in the case of Danny, and then a second coroner says it's suicide. So is it possible that a hit can be done so effectively that the coroner's like, yeah, it's a suicide, or is the coroner in on it?
So
The
I
police
might
are the police in
struggle
on it.
with this, and feel free, either of you to like chime in.
Gabe, you can chime in too.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody.
But like, all right, so it's like a you can only test for certain things like forced entry, fingerprints, footprints, and then there are like a series of like, how do you do it? Do you do it with like you inject someone where they have a heart attack,
Mhm.
or do you hold the gun in front of their head, or do you hang them and make it, or however you do it, right?
You're talking
basically-
about with a suicide made to look a murder made to look like a
A
suicide.
murder made to look like a suicide. I assume that's what we're talking
Yes, exactly. When people suicide themselves.
Yeah, so basically you just have to like get in and get out without leaving a trace.
Right.
Hard, but not impossible. Will you wear booties, gloves? I don't know, whatever. You use some sort of like way to inoculate the, or maybe if they're already wasted, like that helps, or maybe you could like blow some sort of like powders, like scopolamine or something on their face so they become disoriented.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I assume you could do it because it does.
I think something
happen.
that we found interesting was that with medical there are murders that are made to look like a suicide, and there are
And
times
sometimes
where they get caught, right? But it's exceedingly rare that it happens successfully, and what we found was like talking to a few people in the medical examination world is like their level of certainty that it's not that some of these cases like Danny's is not a murder. It's sort of like how many times have you really dealt with something that's such an outlier case? It's so rare. How would you even know? It's very confusing.
Right.
Right.
And I guess in Danny's case, I mean, he cut both of his wrists to the ligaments, like in both arms. Like,
Well, he cut it to the ligament in one arm.
okay.
We don't know fully how deep it went on the other arm because, I mean, the records just unfortunately were not detailed enough. So that's like pretty annoying, right? It's like, it's also like a certain point we need, if you're doing the autopsy, you need to put the details in there.
Yeah, you would think.
And they're very pertinent details.
And in Danny's case, forced entry is not really seen necessarily.
No, the bolt lock was not locked.
Right.
So there's no.
And then no sign of struggle inside the hotel.
But that means if somebody had a key.
Right.
Yeah, but they even credit to the Martinsburg police. They put cops up on the roof to look for footprints to see if somebody like rappelled in.
And?
No, they didn't find any.
Fascinating. Now I'm curious, in the research you guys did, because I mean, it's like, how long is it? 8-year project, something like that? Like
10 to 12 for Christian, yeah.
I mean, it's like a remarkable amount of time to spend on one specific story. And at this point, you've gone to deep webs of every single little part of this octopus. Were there any parts of the investigation that you personally felt threatened, or you felt like, oh, I'm a little in over my head. Maybe I just chill for a little?
Just like early on when I was on my, just like totally on my own. I mean, you can kind of tell in that early footage of me that I was like whacked out. I was taking a bunch of Adderall to do all this research, and like I was paranoid. But I don't think that it was like really totally justified. There was one point where I was like kind of researching the origin of Promise. It's like this software. It's like this thing called Main Core, which was like this early kind of like domestic spying operation that I don't know what department was really running it, but it was like being run out of like FEMA. And in the 70s, it came out in those like post-Watergate invest hearings. And basically there was this Senator Tooney, who was like clearly very knowledgeable about or had information about Main Core. And he was interviewing, I had transcripts of him interviewing in the 70s, these like generals from, or whatever, Navy admirals and Army generals and Air Force generals about this like military domestic spying operation and their use of this like computerized software or this computer system called Main Core. And so I was like, well, he's asking these guys and they're like, I don't know anything. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like denying knowledge of it, but he like you can just tell by his questioning that he's been briefed by somebody about this. So it's like I called him one day to, he was like old, living out in Idaho or Wyoming or somewhere, and he was basically like, yeah, I mean, we had inside sources like that were telling us about it. The weird thing was like the call was like making these crazy noises and like scratchy and like it was just weird. It was just like a weird sound happening over the line that doesn't usually happen. I was recording it. It's like almost an unusable audio clip because there was so much weird like feedback and stuff happening. But he was like out in Wyoming. I don't know if it was a landline or whatever, or if it was a cell phone. Or if like he was like, they put 2 and 2 together. Like, don't talk to the guy, don't talk to the guy that's looking into the origin of like domestic spying, domestic computer spying or whatever in the United States. I don't know, but he was basically like wouldn't tell me who his sources were, and that was a wrap on that. Like that was the last we talked. And I assume he's probably dead by now. I should have pushed it harder, but
no weird phone calls at 3 a.m. with just radio in the background.
No, I mean the story's so old. Like who's
manning the Danny Casolaro desk?
Yeah,
right.
Oh, I know. So I had this source out in Arizona who's an investigator, fascinating dude. And he's got like physical archives. I mean, he's been doing like deep political research for probably 40 years. And
he's almost like a clearinghouse.
Yeah.
For you're like, I want to look more into like the China Lake thing. It's like,
yeah.
He's like, okay, I've got some files on that.
And
Let me
then
mail them to you.
And he has a copy machine. He's old school. And so he'll, you know, copy his original files on whatever you want, and he'll mail them to you. And he'll be like, just keep checking your mailbox, because I'm just going to keep sending stuff. And as I find it, I'm going to keep sending it. And so he actually investigated that Don Bowles case in Arizona. Basically, like I got my first, you know, packet from him. It's like a normal letter, but stuffed with files, and it's like sliced open on the top. And I was like weird, like this is so, and like, how is everything still in here? Like I don't know. Took the files. Like,
how is it possible for it to go from Arizona
to here? And so then like but I didn't like know what to think about it. Like, did he use like a really old envelope, and it just kind of in the travel, like
or like a neighbor like found it, thought that was theirs or something like that?
Yeah. So then like 3 or 4 more letters arrived, and they were all sliced open. And I called him. I was like, "What is going on here? Your mail is open. Are you sending it to me open and just hoping the papers don't fall out? Like, what's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh, I have a mail cover." And I'm like, "A what?" He's like, "A mail cover. I've had it for years." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, somebody, opens all my mail and reads it and puts it back in there."
Wow. I did not know that was a job.
Yeah, right?
Some guy's job is just mail cover.
Right. So
that was like an old CIA thing.
Yeah.
Angleton would have all this.
Funny that like somebody's still, I mean,
somebody's
they just
still
aged together.
Somebody's still working the Don Bull, or not Don Bull's,
Devereaux.
The
Devereaux
desk.
But like that old conspiracy, or not even old, it's kind of a new conspiracy, like my FBI agent, like the designated FBI agent that like watches your webcam to like see what you're up to.
Yeah.
Kind of real in that regard as far as mail cover. You know what I mean? Like there's a dude that's designated just for like this one guy.
I don't know if it's a dude or what.
Yeah, let's not.
Somebody with a knife. Yeah.
A human.
Yeah.
A woman would probably do way better at that job. You know what I mean? Just like going through, snooping.
I won't speculate.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Did that like freak you out a little? Like, all right, these guys are tracking my address. Like,
yeah, it freaked me out. And then it was just like during the pandemic, our office, it was like, you know, the city was kind of desolate. The office was up on 27th Street near FIT, and like, just like I would walk home at night, and we'd have super late nights at the office. I'd be walking home at like 3 a.m, and you know, it's just like been reading about this like eerie, scary, murdery stuff all day, and then like it's just a weird vibe.
No,
walking home at night, like,
well, and people are, not to harp on this too much, but like when you are talking to these people who knew Danny's sources, or people who knew, people in the Octopus world, constantly people were telling us,
this is dangerous. Be careful.
You need to watch out. Like,
people were saying that too.
Yeah.
Be careful is the funniest thing to tell someone. It's like, you know, oh, thanks for reminding me. I don't want to live. Oh, but now I do, because I guess you just like, you got to say it because you want them.
It's an instinct.
Yeah. Fly safe is the same thing, right?
Right.
Safe travel.
Safe travels. But so like there was a guy who told Christian like, "Oh, you're looking into Robert Nichols." Like, I knew Robert Nichols. You're looking into some really bad stuff. These guys are gonna come after you. I'm gonna send you a gun.
What?
And it was like, he was like these guys. Here's the thing, they're not that smart. Okay, all you got to do is point and shoot, and it takes care of it. And it's like,
I mean, that's practical advice at least. Yeah, I mean, it's better.
And
than
he was
careful.
like,
but he wanted to. He was like, it's going to be a very specific caliber. And we're like, you know, we're in New York City. We're just like, Christian's like, I don't need a gun. Like, do not send me a gun through the mail. Like, I do not want that. Please don't do that. And he's like, it's going to be a 10 millimeter,
hollowed out plutonium
with a
tip.
plutonium tip, with like some kind of radioactive material in it that was going to help eliminate these guys. And it's not like we're talking to like, this is somebody who we found deep in the archives who knew Robert Nichols and Michael. It's like
this
he's a real
obscure,
real in some like we're talking to him. Obviously, he's real, but he's not like somebody that we found in the the yellow pages or online or something, right? Like he's in the files that we had, and he like his certainty that they would come after you, and that you needed a plutonium tipped bullet was just like classic Octopus, just
right. It's either an indication you're talking to a kind of a kooky dude, or you're investigating kooky dudes, or both. And neither one is like a great spot to be in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what ended up happening? Did he send you a gun?
No.
We never gave him the address.
I mean, that is wild. I mean, that would have been enough for me to be like, nah, I'm good.
I tried to meet him. I tried to go meet him. But
he wouldn't. I think that after
he
that
stopped
he wouldn't.
responding.
He stopped responding.
So
I flew out to California
and literally just waiting around, like, hey, dude,
I mean, I just doing other things, but tried to go out to his place in the Bay Area, from SF, but couldn't get. Who knows? Maybe he died.
And then since the doc comes out, and now millions of people have seen it and like been on the ride with you guys.
Yeah,
I'm sure more stuff has come out since. Like more people have reached out, and more people have more information. Can you share any of that stuff that has come out?
What?
I mean, I would say first thing is when it came out, I was positive that we were just gonna get so many cranks, just reaching out, which we did. I mean, we got some cranks. There's for sure some cranks, but the amount of people who actually knew people involved with the Octopus, who, as Danny called it, right? Who knew people that were involved with what Danny was investigating, was shocking to me. Mostly they contact Christian because he's the face of the investigation. Sometimes they would contact me, but they would be like, hey, my dad, my granddad, my whatever, was this person, knew this person, whatever. And you look into them, it's like, oh yeah, you did know.
Or sometimes you know already because of their last name.
Right.
Yeah.
Gerald Bull, who's a guy that we don't go into. You just see a little footage from like something he was in creating the Supergun for Iraq. He was a Canadian originally? Canadian, like kind of theoretical munitions guy who was a brilliant,
kind of like a real life mad scientist. Like he had this vision for ballistic projectiles, where and his ultimate vision was that if you make a gun, basically a cannon big enough, you can shoot capsules into space.
Like it's like in a world in which everybody's so in the like Oppenheimer, like
the rocket
age,
the sexiness of this, but it's like it's so much more efficient if you could
paperclip
shoot it into space. Like you wouldn't have to right. You
so
just
instead
need to
of the propulsion being on board, he's like, no, let's go back to that first idea, the Napoleonic age of like cannons, and just get a cannon that's big enough. You can shoot a satellite into space. You can shoot satellites out of space. You can shoot across the entire world a projectile that's much more effective, less traceable, whatever.
Like a ballistic missile into space that then retargets?
It's a missile that doesn't have power.
Yeah.
It doesn't have power on board.
It's a bullet.
It's a giant bullet shot from an enormous... I mean, if you just look up Supergun...
Gerald Bull Supergun.
He developed these. They tested them. They're amazing. If you're...
Gerald
not
Bull.
Good for humanity, but they're...
Bull. And Supergun, I think, is one
Canadian
word.
engineer.
Gerald Bull.
Right. So look at some of these sketches, and then we have video of their tests. I mean, we have footage of them testing them.
And so the mad scientist part of it is like he has this one thing that he wants to do.
He's kind of like clearly, I'm not going to diagnose, but here I go, like kind of like Asperger-y, kind of,
has a fixation.
I'm fixated on this thing.
And so he was working for like DARPA for a while, and then he's lost his contract with DARPA because nobody was into the cannon thing anymore, and so then he's like, he needs to keep building a bigger and bigger gun, and Saddam Hussein like hires him, and he's like, all right, I'll work for these guys. Mossad was bummed. Israel was so bummed that he was making a gun that could shoot from Iraq directly into Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
And so
he'd been developing in Canada.
They killed him.
Yeah.
Who's they?
Like Mossad. He was assassinated
in like Antwerp.
Yeah, he was in Belgium.
What?
And so he's assassinated, I think, on the street. But
that was in his hotel.
Okay, let me just add more disinformation out there.
In Belgium,
in his hotel.
Hold on, click on his Instagram or on his Wikipedia real quick.
Click on his Instagram.
Yeah.
So fucking
shit, he's
Gen Z. Yo, what's his story?
He's live right now.
What's his story doing? So okay, his apartment suffers a non-robbery break-ins. Okay. He's shot 5 times in the head and back at point-blank range while approaching the door of his apartment in Brussels. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Whoa. He was shot by a 3-man team when he answered the door, is what another account says. His cooperation between Bull and Saddam Hussein was felt to be an immediate threat by Israel, which had engaged in previous military engagements in Iraq during the Arab-Israeli War.
So Danny Casolaro was interested in this guy, obviously, because he's part of the sort of like military-industrial complex.
So he dies he dies, I think, in 1990, like a few months before Danny's investigation started.
So
yes.
It's interesting already. The crazy thing, we don't even go into the show, is that Doc Nichols, who is part of, we haven't even talked about this, I realize, but if you've seen the show.
The Cabazon.
The guy who was like the white dude out of Cabazon, who was intelligence
Shady
connected.
CIA guy, yeah.
He had gone to Gerald Bull's facility in Canada trying to buy it, right?
Right. Yes.
They wanted to buy it, and the sale got blocked, I think.
Yeah.
So it relates directly to our story about the octopus, right? You've got this like yet another mad scientist, arms dealer or arms creator, researcher, who's somehow tied in with Danny's investigation.
Right, but also you have Michael telling Danny that he and Bull know each other and worked on projects together, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then, bringing this back to your question, after the show comes out, Christian got a message from
his granddaughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's just an example. Like a lot of kind of people like that came out.
And what is her interest in reaching out to you?
She wanted to talk to Michael Riconosciuto. And so I introduced them.
And was she like forthcoming with documents from her
She didn't
grandfather?
really have that much. She just kind of wanted answers about, she just has questions about who her grandfather really was and what he was up to and trying to find people that knew him and stuff like that.
What we found is that there's
a fascinating story.
Kind of large community. It's not a community, but it's a large group of people who are all united by relatives who died in very strange circumstances related to what Danny was investigating.
It's like a fraternity.
It's like a fraternity, sorority. They're all kind of, a lot of them are aware of each other. A lot of them know each other. And the only connection is that they had some relative who died in a really weird way or was up to some really weird business from this same era. And they're all like, they just want to know more.
And your investigation is ultimately like the nucleus of all of this.
Yeah, Danny's investigation, which became our investigation.
Going all the way back to, the 60s probably, even before then. Of all these people that have sort of mysterious circumstances around their family, both in their operations but also their death, that are now looking to you guys being like, all right, well, tell me everything you found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whoa. And I'm sure this is just one example. I'm sure there's tons.
And I think they feel like kind of validated because they're like, oh, I wish I tell people about my family and it sounds crazy, but like your show came out and it showed that like this stuff was happening and to talk about kind of thing, which is like, it's nice.
Right. So, I mean, do you guys kind of balk at the idea, like, like Danny, Casolaro, he's gone and no one's manning his desk, but like these things don't go away, right? Like these types of operations and sort of like the way money and power and crime sort of circumbobulate around each other, it just sort of changes shape. So I'm curious.
I mean, it's like, it has like, have things changed or do we know less? Okay. So like in the 80s, when all this Iran-Contra stuff was going on, there was a team of investigative journalists that worked at the Wichita, Kansas paper, and like some weird thing happens in their airfield and they're on it. and they're like figuring it out and networking and it just use that as an example of like all over the country there were these newspapers that had investigators investigating shit,
doing good
boring shit sometimes or whatever stuff, just digging, churning things up and publishing what they find. Now it's like you have like none of that, nothing. You have
this is all that's left.
You've got like
two knuckleheads.
Yeah, and like the New York Times but blogs and papers, but you can't just like it was like this churning of information that was just like kind of coming out, and we look back into stories in the 80s and 70s and the 90s, and like there's like this rich amount of information that you can kind of look into people and look into operations and look into things that happened, and so we have a pretty good sense of kind of like and like what this Reagan era, like what they were up to. And
now it's like,
and they were particularly hawkish. Like they were particularly like, and the Cold War was going on. So, and then now we have like,
and now everything's number one, electronic, which is way less sexy than going out to airfields and like finding caches of weapons and like characters like Eugene Hassenfuss, who's like
Barry Seal and
all those guys. And then it's like, what is going on now? It's so buried. I don't know. I would just like feel bad for anybody who's actually trying to investigate this stuff, because it's just.
I'm surprised that that's the case. I would figure it's almost the exact opposite. That like as information is almost like kind of democratized and there's more stuff out there and you can track people's digital footprint, that there would be more info.
But who's paying
for the tracking?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess you need.
Who's devoting the resources?
But I don't know. I even think like the Epstein case was largely blown open by like kind of small print journalists in Miami that were like.
Was it like fully blown open?
I guess the investigation starts there, then starts getting picked up by larger conglomerates. But that's only one example I can think of. Like,
I'm so also I don't want to say that like nothing's being investigated or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like there are specific stories that are being investigated, but I'm saying this like because our thing has all these tentacles, and it's like a bank, literally like a banker in Baltimore named Robert Maxwell, different Robert Maxwell, like got his like bank taken over by this like shady group that turned out to be an intelligence organization, and like totally like cut him out of his whole thing. And he finds out that he's bankrolling some extremely shady arms deals. It's just like, so I found that in the Baltimore Sun, and it's like I realized that, oh, that's this Robert Maxwell and Danny's notes, and it's connected to this and Oliver North or what, whatever, like just this kind of like general culture of like investigation.
Is that Robert Maxwell or Robert Altman?
Robert Maxwell. I didn't even tell you about this case. But yeah, Baltimore.
Breaking news. Yeah. I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, whatever. It's just better to like just have like people also, right? Like for me, like, you want to know who's telling you this stuff, and if it's a newspaper, it's actually printed, you're kind of like they're sticking their neck out behind it. They could get sued or whatever. If it's just some shit you see online, it's just easier to like take in the information and use it as valuable data if it's been like actually published rather than on like a message board or something. But that is being a little snobbish, but it seems
sense.
Like it's more time consuming to like go through information you find on a message board, who's posting it, what's it mean, and
but then it's like, oh, it's Time Magazine, it's on, and then you're like, oh, that's literally an apparatus at certain eras.
I don't even remember what the question was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm like,
what's happening now?
Like these things don't change.
We don't know.
You know what I mean?
I've specialized in the 80s and 90s.
Has the Promise software changed? Like, does it still exist in some capacity?
Well, just to add a little conspiracy grist to the mill, where we started when we were talking about Robert Maxwell is that his daughter, and I'm not saying that this is Promise, but this is one of the funny sort of allegations. His other daughter, not Ghislaine, runs a company that sells a software called Chiliad, Chilead, I think, that's strikingly similar to Promise, which is just, and it's like it's sold to governments and stuff like that. It's just like a funny thing if it was like, yeah, we basically got one business in this family, and that's repackaging Promise. Like that's how we make our money.
But Google a VMS 11780 on here. Google image. VAX VMS.
The computer that ran Promise.
VAX VMS.
11780.
Is this probably the size of a room?
Not quite.
What?
Hit images.
Yeah. So that's what you're.
Hell yeah.
Does Promise still exist? I think they came up with something a little.
Well, this is my question, right? Like,
or AI.
I don't think it still exists literally, but like it just is repackaged and changed. You know what I mean? Like, I just assume all these like government ops from the 80s, if there's any modicum of success, that they don't go away. They just sort of
Well, it's just like became extremely clear, like the Stellar Wind stuff and the Snowden allegations,
Right.
Or revelations. All these companies have just, if Promise was doing what people said it was doing, they're doing it obviously so much better and more efficiently now.
Right. My idea was that like Promise, so it's basically like, I mean, I was already working on this story when the Snowden revelations came out. I've been working on it for about a year or two. And I was like, oh, that's how I'll package this story, because it's like the
new Snowden.
It's all of a sudden like Snowden revelations drop, and it's like the government's spying on everybody, and Verizon's involved, and everything you've ever texted, everybody knows. And it's like, okay, so this is happening, right? We all now know that it's happening for sure. But when did it start? You know, and like that's like that it didn't come out in that tranche of files that Snowden smuggled. And so I was like thinking maybe this is like the origin of this. I mean, certainly like the right time period, because you can't trace computer, data spying too much further back before the era of computers.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious about like Pegasus software. Isn't that sort of doing a similar job, right?
Yeah.
This stuff just,
which I think they got like Bezos's phone doing that. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think like it was Pegasus software from like a phishing link that basically gave, was it Saudis? I think like full access to like his personal cell phone.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. And then I'm sure this ties.
It's like used by all kinds of people to obviously spy on journalists who are looking into whatever government they happen to be looking into.
Right.
Just, it's a pretty ugly world.
So then, given everything from this, what is a follow up or like a spin off series that you had mentioned before? Like, what would that look like? Do you think it would follow kind of a similar track? Is it completely deviating?
I'll say that it's sort of a prequel as it stands now in the research phase. But we don't talk about stuff that we're still doing. We talk about it when it comes out.
That makes sense. Is it? I hope this is less dangerous. Dude, I don't know. I read about the stuff you guys are doing. I'm like, this freaks me out.
I think this new one is a little bit more hardcore, actually.
Really?
Yeah. But it's even earlier, so it's...
Hopefully people are even deader.
Yeah.
yeah. That sounds
not
nice.
Too dead.
Yeah,
not so dead that they're totally dead.
Yeah. That's
source-wise.
That's always nice. I like to do conspiracies when people are done. You know what I mean? Like when people are out of here, it's like, all right, we'll get into this. We'll get into MK Ultra. These people are gone. You know what I mean? That doesn't matter.
Right.
But
Sidney Gottlieb is not even. He's not even a goat farmer anymore. He's dead.
Well, he was suicided.
Gottlieb?
Yeah, assisted suicided. His kids did it.
Oh, true.
No way.
Oh, no.
Was
that Jolly or Sydney?
Jolly West.
That was
Jolly West's son did it.
Really? Wait, I didn't realize Jolly West's son is the one that killed him?
Or was it Gottlieb?
No. It was. I think it was Jolly West's son. The speculation podcast of us like testing our knowledge over our memories.
Gabe refuses to Google anything.
No, but I think because this is stuff that Tom. This is stuff that Tom brought up because his son admitted.
Tom O'Neill
After the statute of limitations. Remember, his son was like, after like 20 years or whatever, is the statute of limitations in wherever they were.
Okay.
And he was like, I helped my dad. My dad was in a bad state. He had some sort of degenerative disease.
I'm going $5. It was Gottlieb.
All right, I'm going Jolly West, $5.
It might be
money on the table.
Might be both. I'm gonna go Jolly West. I feel like there's.
Who killed Sidney Gottlieb? Because I'm right.
Yeah, Sidney Gottlieb. Do that one first.
Damn, you're just going to be
Gottl.
Yeah, right there.
IEB.
Okay, died in 1999.
Died on Nah, dude.
Hold on, go to his Wikipedia. We're gonna get to the bottom
Type
of it.
suicide.
No,
Leading the witness.
we're.
I've never won a bet against Zach, by the way.
We're never gonna get another project off the ground if we're sitting over here being wrong about.
Well, let's find out. Here we go. He died at his home in Virginia. He was reported to have a history of heart problems, but his wife declined to give a cause of death. According to
whatever. We can maybe.
Well, no, let's get Jolly West. Let's get Jolly West now.
Let's do Jolly. We can edit this out later.
Yeah, the death of Jolly West. Come on. Just search Jolly West. Go to his Wikipedia.
Type Jolly West assisted suicide.
Yeah, Jolly West.
More handsome than I thought. All right, let's go.
All right. Death.
His family said it was metastatic.
There you go. Boom.
You were right.
Wow.
Damn it.
And
do you have the cash now, or do I have to wait on it?
I do have it.
Okay.
That is wild, dude. He's using prescription medication. That's
doesn't rule out Sidney Galliot, but I would just say the public story.
Yes.
I get all these guys. Is it okay if it's in ones?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. You carry ones around? What a dog.
Unfortunately, that's all we got.
What a dog, dude. I mean, that's wild. It's like, it wasn't even assisted suicide. It was just prescription meds. Like, he just gave him some Perk 30s and just said, yo,
I think it was. I think that he admits in his thing that it was quite literally an assisted suicide, that he was the one who procured his father or created his father.
Sure, but when you think assisted suicide, you think like, oh,
it isn't like a needle jab.
They're using some type of like chemical agent that's designed to kill you in some type of way. He just says
illegal. Like after the statute of limitation, I do know. I know about it, but not I got the guy confused. After the statute of limitations went up, he could no longer be charged for it. He wrote a memoir about his father and about, helping him die.
I mean, that's kind of ironic, Jolly West, helped a couple.
Loved using drugs to people have horrible experiences.
Yeah, right. Like you get Jack Ruby out of here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny, right? A little. I mean, R.I.P. Yeah. But still, I mean, the idea that he's using drugs to get people out of here, and all of a sudden, he has drugs and gets him out of here.
Yeah.
Perfect balance in the universe.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was fun. I'm excited to see what you guys do next, and yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting. I feel like it'll be on Netflix is my assumption, but who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe it'll be on some to be dreamed of streaming platform.
Yeah,
that we dreamed of.
Yeah,
yeah. It has Tubi in the name. I like that.
Okay.
Tubi. Yeah, it'll be on Tubi.
Yeah,
in the fall.
I can't wait. Well, I will see you guys there, and everyone will be tuning in. I appreciate y'all, and look forward to doing this again.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. What's up, people? Quick announcement: if you are a fan of Camp Gagnon or Religion Camp, I have great news because we are dropping History Camp. That's right. This is the channel where we're going to be exploring the most interesting, fascinating, controversial topics from all time throughout all history. Right? You probably know about Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Nikola Tesla. Interesting figures from history, and you probably learned about them in school and they were pretty boring, but not here. No. As you know, I was raised by a conspiracy theorist, so I'm going to be diving deep into all of the interesting, strange, occult, and secretive societal relationships that all of these famous, influential men from our shared past have. So if you're interested, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It will be pinned in the description as well as the comments. And if you're on Spotify, this doesn't really apply to you, but these episodes will be dropping as well. Just go ahead and give us a high rating because it really helps the show.